Right, so it's literally impossible to tell the entire history of a people in about 15 minutes or less. But here we go. So let's start from the beginning, the very, very beginning. For Afro-Descended people in the New World, our story largely began in Western Africa, despite the fact that numerous African ethnic groups in their oral histories proclaim that they actually come from a more eastern region. But I digress. So the very first significant sign of civilization in West Africa came from southern Mauritania in about 1900 BC at a site called Dar Tichet, an elaborate array of stone structures and settlements that were built by the Soninka. You see, the Soninka were pretty much tired of raiding nomads from the north called the Berbers, so they built stone walls and settlements for protection. Some scholars theorize that these raids from their northern neighbors pretty much upset the Soninka so much so that they went on to build the very first empire in all of West African history, the Wagadu Empire. An extremely wealthy empire that even compelled Arab scholars to write about it, especially their kings in the 10th century. He is the richest sovereign on earth. He possesses great wealth and reserves of gold that have been extracted since early times to the advantage of former kings and his own. Your boy, Ibn Hakel. Then all of a sudden, boom. This huge Islamic renaissance begins in West Africa, perpetuated by raiding nomads of the north, the Almoravid Empire. It begins expanding from northern Senegal all the way to southern Spain. They were pretty much giving everybody the complete business. African jihads left and right began to appear in the region, but the Wagadu Empire was like, nah, I'm good. But Abu Bukhari, the ruler of the Almoravid Empire in the south, wasn't having it, and he began raiding Wagadu and destroying their trade empire. Yeah, so hopefully all you guys got all that, because you're going to have to bear with me. So this dude named Sumanguru Kante of Soso, which was a vassal state of Wagadu, saw how weak Wagadu had become and was just like, I might as well join the fun. Totally terrible human being. Sumanguru Kante begins ravaging not only Wagadu, but the Mandinka kingdoms, who were also vassals to Wagadu themselves. I mean, the dude was a tyrant, all the while his men were raping and pillaging. And to top it all off, he not only insulted the Mandinka, but he called the Mandinka prince out his name, weak and spineless. So Sunjata Keita, the prince of the Mandinka, was just like, nah, you ain't got no choppers, my dude. Nah, I'm just playing. He really said, know that I have in my camp 7 master smiths who will shatter the rocks. Then Yam, I will eat you. Yeah, he literally said that, and he was right. Sunjata Keita chopped up Sumanguru Kante at the Battle of Karina in 1235 and established the Korakan Foga, the constitution of the Mali Empire, or what they called the division of the world. Mali was a great empire inheriting the riches and esteem of Wagadu. Around this time, the Portuguese began to flex their muscles and raid the coastline of Mali, thinking they were just going to run through the region. But the Mali Empire firmly gave them the business, and Portugal opted to establish trade relations instead. Mali was definitely a powerful force. In fact, the wealthiest man ever in Earth's history was Mansa Musa. He's the guy that pretty much put Timbuktu on the map and made Egypt go into economic decline because he brought in so much gold into the region that it was devalued for decades. This made Timbuktu a legend in the medieval world, making it a place of wonder and fantasy. Even Obi-Wan mentioned it in Star Wars. By the way, we literally just summed up thousands of years of West African history from Dar Tichet all the way to Mansa Musa, so let's breathe and take a break. So just like all empires, the Mali Empire had to end eventually, and it came to a halt due to the Songhai. Here's what happened. So basically, the Mandinka would always struggle to keep this one vassal state in subservient status. It was the Kingdom of Gao, founded by the Songhai people. Thus, according to Mandinka custom, the king of Gao would have to give up his sons to the kings of Mali. Mansa Musa followed this tradition and kept the Songhai prince Ali Kalon in his court, so as to keep Gao loyal to the Mali throne. Ali Kalon was forced to fight in Mandinka wars and just do a lot of crap he probably didn't want to do. Not only did Ali Kalon hate the Mandinka, but he hated Mali. So when Mansa Musa died and civil duress came upon the Mali throne, Ali Kalon was just like, I'm about to get up out of here. So he did. He started a revolution in Gao, gained their independence, and later Sunni Ali, the Songhai king, completely ran through the Mali Empire like it was nothing. The Songhai Empire was great. Everything was good. We had great kings like Sunny Ali, and even great Songhai scholars in Timbuktu, the legendary Ahmed Baba. The most popular king was Askia the Great. Now Askia was actually not even a Songhai, but a Soninka. You know, the guys from the Wagadu Empire. Askia was a legendary king of Songhai. He advanced Songhai territory, religious tolerance, and most importantly, scholarship. And after the death of Askia the Great, it was all downhill from there for the entire region. Here's how it started. Now Askia had sons and even grandsons who were fighting over the Songhai throne. This infighting and civil war was absolutely brutal. It was a period of treachery, backstabbing, and disloyalty. The Moroccans, just coming out of a war with the Portuguese, needed to stimulate their economy once more. Songhai civil duress was so prominent that the Moroccans sought to take advantage of it and take over the Songhai Empire. But the Moroccans had one ideological problem. The Songhai elite were Muslims, like them. And every Muslim knows that to attack another Muslim is a no-no. So the Moroccans thought about it for a while and was like, I ain't worried about nothing. Then boom, we had another explosion. The Songhai Empire fell and we had rivaling ethnic groups and kingdoms that dispersed from it. Ironically enough, the Songhai Empire was so big that the Moroccans couldn't even control it and were forced to leave. Right, so basically the dominant people in the region were the Mandinka, the Soninka, the Fulani, and the Songhai. So when the Songhai Empire broke up in about 1591, other African ethnic groups began to create their own kingdoms so they wouldn't have to be under the tutelage and domination of the Mandinka or the Songhai. You had the Dendi Kingdom, which was ruled by the Songhai. You had the Futa Jalan Kingdom, ran by the Fula. And you had other kingdoms with differing ethnic groups that just wasn't happening anymore. Now technically the Songhai didn't completely overrun their old Mandinka overlords. So after the Mali Empire completely fell, the Mandinka raided the coastline of West Africa and began subjugating the people in the region of Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. This was called the Main Invasion. They were pretty much like rogue Mandinka warriors with a chip on their shoulder. That's why today we have so many Mande-speaking people on the West African coastline, descendants of the Mali Empire. Portuguese observers stated, the original leader of the main forces was a woman, Mabeti, Queen of Guinea. We know her today as Queen Mansa or Mabeti. Apparently, according to oral tradition, she pretty much got into it with her brother who banished her. And let's be honest, she was probably making some pretty solid arguments, especially given the circumstances. But before she left, she made sure to make him hurt. She took a whole army of elite fighters from Mali with her and they began dominating the coastline of West Africa. Her brother was losing Mali fast. He got so desperate, he even asked the Portuguese for help. But the Portuguese were like, look, I just want to trade. Anyway, the main invasion inherited the governmental structure of the Mali Empire and greatly influenced the cultural, political structure of the region. They were accompanied by these people called the Sumba, who were reportedly very vicious. So once other Africans on the coastline heard about them, they immediately surrendered and were just like, I'm good, bruh, what you need? That is until they met the Susu. Yeah, the same stock of people from Sumanguru Kante who was ravaging the Mandinka centuries earlier. Yeah, that guy. Apparently, the Susu counterattack was so swift that one Portuguese mercenary employed by the Mandinka could get off only one shot from his firearm before he was forced to flee. Anyway, West Africa by this time was in shambles and in no position to fight off any foreign threat, as their empires had diminished, putting rivaling kingdoms of differing ethnic groups in constant survival mode. Thus, the slave trade provided excellent opportunity for economic stability and growth for these random kingdoms that developed post-Mali and Songhai. You had Fulani selling Mandinka, Mandinka selling Fulani, so on and so forth. There was no Pan-Africanism back then, so we can't take a relatively new concept and apply it to 16th and 17th century people. These ethnic groups had differing languages, cultures, and religious beliefs. So the Fulani, who were dominated by the Mandinka for centuries, jumped at the opportunity to rid themselves of their old masters for good. The dominant groups taken to the New World in this particular region were the Fulani, Mandinka, and other Mande-speaking ethnic groups along the coastline, so on and so forth. All in all, due to the history of the region, enslaved people were usually just war captives. This is why in America a popular concept concerning black fighter is a Mandingo warrior. It speaks to the history of the Mandinka and the Mali Empire. It's estimated that about 15 to 30% of the enslaved people were actually Muslims and could read and write. So you actually had several enslaved Mandinka and Fulani Africans who gained their freedom due to their knowledge of reading and writing, like in the case of the captured Fulani noble Ayuba Diallo, who was like, bruh, I just can't. But unfortunately, some others weren't so lucky. The loss of empire, the survivalist attitudes of Western kingdoms, and the literal depopulation of West Africa led to the deterioration of the entire region, which is only just now recovering today. As for their descendants, or us, let's just say when we combine all the Western African ethnic groups into one, we created a new identity, one that founded the cultural atmosphere of the Americas, which is heavily drenched in African affinities. A culture that is literally irresistible to the rest of the world. However, despite our dominant influence in creating the popular culture in the New World, we've allowed others to somehow dictate how we feel about ourselves, outsourcing our self-esteem to institutions and human agencies that inherently despise us due to the legacy of slavery. We've inherited a pretty odd plight, but at the end of the day, that plight is our own. We are the most mimicked people on the planet. We need not prove the value of our humanity to anyone, as it's already bathed in the fabric of world culture itself. It's clear that our greatness does not come from being accompanied or validated by others, but our greatness and our value, historically, has always come from within ourselves, in the past, the present, and especially the future. But y'all already know what it is, man. It's your boy Home Team. If you guys want full access to full-blown African history lessons, you can support the Home Team on Patreon. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.